In this video, I am going to be talking about the New Testament and Jesus Christ in the books of 1st and 2nd Kings and 1st and 2nd Chronicles. I've been working my way through the Old Testament, seeking to speak on the subject of Christ in the Old Testament seen through New Testament lenses. So at this point, we just finished Judges and Ruth and 1st and 2nd Samuel. We are now in 1st and 2nd Kings. 1st and 2nd Kings is one book in the Hebrew Scriptures. Its main theme is to trace the failure of the northern kingdom as well as the southern kingdom with a few revivalist kings. The purpose of the book is to set forth the reason for exile and captivity seen in the failure of keeping the central place of worship in Jerusalem, relative to the northern kings especially, whereas the southern kings built high places and went away from Yahweh, with the exception of a few kings who had revivals, such as Josiah. The book shows the failure of Israel's kings in the north and in the south. And this, I believe, as I look toward the New Testament, points to the future reality of the final king promised in the New Testament, the Lord Jesus Christ, who will not fail. He is the perfect king. He is the God-man, conquering death, who has conquered death, and who will establish revival in the hearts of those who accept his teaching and his message, his Torah, and who ultimately, according to the New Testament, accept him as the Lord who died and rose again. Through faith in him, he becomes the final king of his people, who leads them into that eternal kingdom of a new heaven and a new earth. Then as we come to 1st and 2nd Chronicles, the 1st and 2nd Chronicles is actually the last book of the Hebrew Bible. In the Chronicles, I believe, we have a beautiful depiction of David as a type of Christ. David is the model that the book of Chronicles goes back to in encouraging those coming out of exile to build the temple after the Babylonian captivity and to reestablish Davidic worship. I've spoken of Christ as the perfect king. David is also referred to in Ezekiel. Ezekiel says that David will come someday and he will be the final shepherd. In Ezekiel chapter 34, the writer states, I, the Lord, will be their God, and the servant David will be prince among them. It is interesting, the word David, and that, by the way, this is in Ezekiel 34, the word David in Hebrew is David. It has a Daled, a Vav, a Daled as its consonant. And when you put David together, you end up with 4, 6, and 4. Dalet is 4, Vav is 6, and Dalet is 4. David. By adding them up, we have the number 14. In the Jewish exegesis, this could be called Gematria, in which numbers have symbolic significance. In his gospel, Matthew tells us that from Abraham to David are 14 generations, and from David to the Babylonian captivity there are 14 generations, and from the Babylonian captivity to Christ there are 14 generations in Matthew 1:17. Therefore, in Matthew we have a threefold witness to the number 14, and it is as if Matthew were saying, Jesus Christ we now see as the final perfect David and the Messiah, who is the God-man, Jesus Christ. So while 1st and 2nd Chronicles focus on David and a restoration of Davidic worship, this becomes, can I say, a background type pointing ultimately to the fulfillment in Jesus Christ as the final David who will establish eternal worship in a new heaven and new earth.